this episode we're talking about immaculate guys. No, not guys who are neat freaks, or guys who are the result of a virgin birth. We're putting together a roster of guys that will help you in your daily immaculate grid performance. So these are guys who have played for a lot of teams. We could alternately call this episode Journeyman, but I'm going with immaculate guys because I'm completely addicted to this daily quiz. And if you're a regular viewer here, I have a feeling you might be as well. Not to brag, but I'm pretty good at this game, as there is a lot of pointless baseball minutia rattling around in Little Duder's head. But I still get stumped all the time on this game. It's usually some combination of expansion teams, like Rockies, Angels, or Brewers, Nationals, or something like that. So a lot of times I end up making a guess, usually involving someone like Edwin Jackson, who played for a record of 14 teams. You've got a pretty good shot there, although in the above examples you would fail because Jackson didn't play for the Brewers, Angels, or Rockies. But, sometimes it works. So I thought I'd put together a roster of other options to consider when you are stuck. Not really trying to break the game by creating a cheat sheet, because what fun is that? We choose to do these grids
not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
So let's get on with more free advertising for the Baseball Reference website. Catcher, Paul Bako. This guy pulled off the feat of playing for 11 teams in 12 seasons. That's some impressive journeymaning. Some team is always going to want a competent defensive catcher who bats left-handed to be their backup. First base, Willie Montañez. I'm sure Montañez was often dubbed an RBI guy in the 1970s. In 1975, he drove in 101 runs while hitting just 10 dingers and slugging just .415. Seems he was sort of typecast as a power hitter because he hit 30 long balls in his rookie season, but never approached that again, averaging just 12 per season over the next 9 years. The Giants had picked him up from the Phillies early on in the 75 season, trading Gary Maddox, which looks like a pretty bad move for San Francisco. However, the Giants were then able to cash in those 101 ribbies and deal Montañez to the Braves for Darrell Evans in 76. Maddox for Evans is probably a wash as far as trades go. But speaking of trades, Montañez was part of an incredible number of trades involving big-name players. In addition to the two I already mentioned, Montañez was also dealt for Gaylord Perry in 1980 and Tony Phillips in a separate trade in 1980. And he was involved in a 4-team trade in 1977 that also included Al Oliver, John Milner, John Matlack, and Bert Blyleven. And Montañez was the player to be named later in the infamous 1969 trade between the Cardinals and Phillies that sent Dick Allen to St. Louis in exchange for Tim McCarver and Curt Flood, who, of course, refused to report and became a baseball labor rights hero. Montañez had quite an eventful career for a barely above replacement level dude. He was also known as a bit of a hot dog. It was said that there wasn't enough mustard in the ballpark to cover Montañez.
Wrong!
Second base, Miguel Cairo. Utility man for 9 teams in 17 seasons. Textbook journeyman. And Rays, Mariners, Blue Jays is a pretty good vortex of teams for the grid. Third base, Todd Zeile. Zeile, seen here in an action shot receiving the news that he's just been traded, was a very good hitter and subpar fielder who bounced around to 11 different teams in a 16-year career. Then, in true journeyman fashion, he retired and started producing and acting in low-budget Christian films, in addition to doing sportscasting. Not all who wander are lost. Shortstop, Royce Clayton. Clayton had a pretty solid career as a 17-year journeyman, playing for 11 teams and putting up about 20 WAR. Clayton was a pretty phenomenal defensive shortstop who got thrown into an impossible situation in 1996, when he was traded to the Cardinals in order to be Ozzie Smith's replacement, but while Ozzie was still playing. Yeah, D-backs, Rockies, Nationals, and Brewers is a pretty good combo here. I feel like the Brewers are a team that always gets me. They're a 1969 expansion team, but those first 10 years are a black box. No one knows what went on in that time, except that Hank Aaron played a year or two there. Then you get into the Wallbangers' heyday, but then the 90s Brewers are another dark age for me. I know that John Jaha and Jeremy Burnitz were involved, but it's tough to say what else happened. Left field, Rickey Henderson. Can't really call Rickey a journeyman, as he's one of the greatest players of all time. But the early aughts section of his career has a journeyman vibe. 5 teams in 4 years. Rickey has been one of my go-to grid guys for a while. Gives you a lot of teams, and I can actually remember most of them. But the Angels are always a surprise on that list. Center field, Kenny Lofton. Similar to Rickey, Lofton had a journeyman finish to his should-be Hall of Fame career. After spending all but 2 seasons with Cleveland in his first 11 years, his last 6 years saw him bounce around to 9 different teams. This is another one I will guess when desperate, but I can never remember who he played for in those last 6 years. Right field, Matt Stairs. The inspiration for the greatest Facebook page that has ever existed. Just a model of consistency. Oh, but look, they broke from the pattern here to post an immaculate grid. Oh, there he is. This is like in Brewster's Millions where he buys the stamp but then mails it. Well played, the same photo of Matt Stairs every day. 12 teams here and a good mix of expansion teams too. Royals, Brewers, Padres, Rangers, Blue Jays, and Expos. DH, Russell Branyan. He may have played for 10 different teams, but he only ever had 3 outcomes. This is a tough one because I can never remember what teams this guy played for besides the Mariners and Indians. Rotation, Edwin Jackson. Jackson was the first guy to play for 14 teams, the most ever, and he did this in 17 seasons. More impressive than the guy who recently tied him. Jackson's been one of my go-to options when I need a guess, although it's hard to remember all the teams he played for as he did a real speed run to close out his career. He had an odd career trajectory. He made the bigs at 19 with the Dodgers and struggled to adjust before finding his way a bit with the Rays. He had a nice little run from 2008 to 2012, and then just collapsed around the time he hit 30. That's one hell of a downswing in his final 7 seasons, putting up negative 4.9 WAR for 9 different teams. Rich Hill, the guy who just tied Jackson last year with 2 starts for the Royals in his 21st season. Dick Mountain looks like he's not coming back in 2026, so he won't be moving into sole possession of the record. Mike Morgan. You might be expecting Jamie Moyer to show up here, a guy who I often go to on my Immaculate grids, but Moyer surprisingly only played for a measly 8 teams, so he won't make this roster. Morgan saw time with 12 teams in a 22-year career, and he won at least 1 game with 11 different teams, a record he shares with 3 other pitchers on this roster: LaTroy Hawkins, Villone, and our next starter, Bartolo Colon. Big Sexy was an ace early in his career with Cleveland and Anaheim, before putting on weight and becoming a late career journeyman, playing for 8 teams in his final 11 seasons. And we'll close out the rotation with a true number 5 starter, a guy named Jose Ureña. He came up on some bad Marlins teams, and after he was granted free agency in 2020, just put everything on double speed, playing for 10 teams in 5 years, including a record-tying season last year where he played for 5 different teams. This guy is our next best hope to break the Jackson Hill record. He's just 33. However, seeing as he's not very good and he's currently signed with an MPB team, he's likely going to stall out at 11. He's got a great combo of expansion teams for the grid, though. Rockies, Marlins, Angels, Blue Jays, Rangers, Brewers, and Twins. I know, not an expansion team, the Twins, but how many of us have a laundry list of Senators players in the back of our heads? Bullpen. Relievers really lend themselves to the journeyman lifestyle, so I'm going to speed through this section here. Gotta go with the king of journeyman relievers with Octavio Dotel, 13 teams in a 15-year career. Then we'll go with Villone, 12 teams in 15 seasons. LaTroy Hawkins, who played for 11 teams in 21 seasons. Dennys Reyes, the Big Sweat, 11 in 15 seasons. Fernando Rodney, 11 teams in 17 seasons. Julian Tavarez, also 11 teams in 17 seasons. And Rick White, who played for 11 teams in just 12 seasons. Bench. For a backup catcher, we'll take Henry Blanco, who played for 11 teams in 16 seasons as a backup. This also gives us 2 attendees of the tragic Jet Set nightclub show in the Dominican Republic in 2025, where 236 people were killed when the roof collapsed. Octavio Dotel was among those victims. Blanco had fortunately left shortly before the collapse. Outfield, Tommy Davis. Then we'll take Davis, who's a what-could-have-been guy. He was coming off an incredible 3-year stretch for the Dodgers when a broken ankle in 1965 knocked him out for a full season, after which he was never quite the same again. The Dodgers dealt him to the Mets in 67, starting him down the journeyman path. Played for 9 teams in his final 10 seasons, including multiple stints with the A's and the Cubs. Outfield, Marlon Byrd. Then we've got Marlon Byrd, who also played for 10 franchises, putting together a pretty solid 15-year career. We need someone to back up short and second, so we'll add Bert Campaneris, who doesn't totally fit as a journeyman as he only played for 4 teams, but helps us in the grid because in 1965, he played all 9 positions in a game. So when you get that grid cell that's a cross-section of positions played, you can always go with Campy. There are 5 other guys who have done this: Jose Oquendo, Andrew Romine, Scott Sheldon, Cesar Tovar, and Shane Holter. Those last 4 will really help your rarity score, if you were into that sort of thing. Outfield, Kevin Pillar.
Pilar?
I didn't realize this guy had bounced around so much. I remember him being with the Blue Jays for quite a while, but he's played for 9 teams since the Jays traded him in 2019, and he just retired after 2025. Outfield, Tommy Pham. We'll take another outfielder in Tommy Pham, who might also be hanging them up, although I haven't seen any official word of his retirement. Pham also played for 10 different teams, including 2 separate stints with the Cardinals. All right, that's our roster of immaculate guys, aka journeymen. Let me know who you think we should have included, and as always, like and subscribe for more guys.
Yeah, guys.